Argentina's President Alberto Fernandez has officially promulgated the voluntary abortion bill and other laws to benefit women and children. Venezuela's National Assembly has established a special commission for dialogue, peace, and national reconciliation. Some 15,000 National Guard troops have been deployed to Washington, D.C. from different states across the country. From the headquarters of teleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I'm Gladys Quesada. The President of Argentina, Alberto Fernandez, officially promulgated the law on the voluntary interruption of pregnancy this Thursday, as well as the law of comprehensive care during pregnancy and for children in the first years of life. Both bills, approved on December the 30th after an intense debate in the Argentine Senate, were officially signed into law in an official ceremony at the presidential palace. The law on the voluntary interruption of pregnancy will guarantee free, legal abortion in the public health system and eliminates legislation that dates from 1921, which criminalized women for undergoing an abortion. The second law is linked to the provision of comprehensive health care for children up to the age of 3 and includes, among other measures, the fulfillment of a plan of mandatory vaccinations linked to the National Health Program. It also provides care to pregnant women and financial support in the first 100 days of an infant's life. The government of Guatemala decreed a state of prevention in at least 7 departments of the country on Thursday to restrict the passage of a new caravan of Honduran migrants to the United States. The decree, that applies to areas near the country's northern border with Mexico, contemplates 15 days of mobility restrictions to prevent the provisions of aid to migrants or to help along the route, as was seen on the other occasions. Government authorities claim that the decision is due to the danger posed in the midst of the surge in COVID-19 infections. And now we go to Colombia, where the human rights defender Amparo Tolosa was notified this Wednesday by the National Army that it's not possible to guarantee her security in the sectors that are controlled by irregular groups in the territory of the Southern Department of Bolívar. The news was received by the social leader, who regrets obtaining such an answer, since she is forced to abandon her work of land restitution in the sector, which she was carrying out with campesinos from the area and state entities. The document received by the activist referred to the fact that the area where she intended to work is controlled by an organized criminal group known as Los Ratones, the mice, so the military unit recommended her not to move on the sidewalks and trails, since it was not possible to guarantee her safety. Tolosa denounced that at any moment she could be left without protection. Latin America registers more than 16.8 million COVID-19 cases, with over 8.2 million reported in Brazil alone. Brazil, the hardest hit nation in the region, reported nearly 61,000 infections and more than 1,200 fatalities in the last 24 hours. Brazil has the second highest death toll, only behind the U.S., with over 206,000 fatalities. Other countries in Latin America, including Argentina, Chile, Bolivia, and Ecuador, already started their first vaccinations in early January, but the situation in many of them is similar to Brazil's, which has seen a resurgence of the coronavirus since the holidays. The Colombia is the second most affected country in Latin America, with more than 1.8 million infections and over 47,000 fatalities, followed by Argentina, that registers more than 1.7 million COVID-19 cases and nearly 45,000 fatalities. In Bolivia, the government purchased 5 million additional vaccines against COVID-19, which will make possible the vaccination of the entire population that is eligible. Our correspondent, Freddy Morales, brings us more details.
The contract was signed to obtain 5 million vaccines from the AstraZeneca laboratory, developed with the Oxford University.
We have a plan for the coronavirus pandemic. One of the fundamental elements is the vaccination. The second element is the massive test to be able to have diagnosis. And the third element is the coordination to work on the assistance on time, the isolation and the treatment of the people.
The first contract covering 5.2 million doses was previously made for the Russian vaccine Sputnik, so the number of doses is over 10 million.
With this AstraZeneca vaccine and the negotiation to join the COVAX system, and additionally the purchase we made of the Russian vaccine, we will vaccinate 100% of the eligible population in the country.
President Arce warned that the immunization process will begin in 2 months, so he called on the population to adopt maximum measures to prevent contagion.
The population has to become aware that during these 2 months that we have left, we have to resist. We have to strengthen and increase the preventive measures against the coronavirus. We have to intensify the care, the biosecurity measures at home and the workplace, everywhere.
The government strategy to face the second wave of the pandemic includes the mobilization of the leaders of social organizations in neighborhoods and rural areas to encourage the population to be tested free of charge, to enforce the protocol for taking care of the sick and the forthcoming vaccination.
We, the leaders of social union organizations, will be able to conduct fieldwork in the different neighborhoods, provinces, municipalities, in remote areas to reach every house, every home.
According to doctors, the so-called second wave of the disease is more aggressive, so there is a debate about the possibility of adopting restrictions on the mobility of people and vehicles. With a population of 11 million people, over 10 million doses of vaccines will begin to be administered free of charge in March.
Venezuela's National Assembly has established a special commission for dialogue, peace and national reconciliation. President of the Parliament, Jorge Rodriguez, announced that the Commission will be deployed throughout the country to establish regional committees and mechanisms for popular consultation. The Commission will be comprised of 14 lawmakers representing all political parties and will be presided over by Jorge Rodriguez. Lawmaker Luis Martinez will be the first Vice President, and lawmaker Francisco Torrealba will serve as second Vice President of the Commission.
This is a commission to listen to everyone in all areas, in the social, political, economic, cultural, religious and ethnic spheres, so that none of these issues that spark controversy or conversions among Venezuelans remain unaddressed.
And the President of Venezuela's National Assembly, Jorge Rodriguez, announced that the National Dialogue Commission was declared in a state of emergency in order to reach agreements that will allow to quickly attend to the needs of the population.
We have also decided to act quickly and thoughtfully so that both events, which might be antagonistic, converge with the speed demanded by the people of Venezuela, so that we can sit down to talk and agree with the implicit certainty that no one will be excluded from this process. The solution to this apparent antagonism will be the intense efforts and the permanent declaration of a state of emergency by this Commission, so that once the schedule is presented and approved, we can all sit down to meet and be summoned.
Meanwhile, the first Vice President of the Parliamentary Commission for Dialogue and Peace, Luis Eduardo Martinez, expressed his optimism regarding the creation of a pluralistic parliamentary mechanism to ensure the economic and social stability of Venezuela.
We are very optimistic about the installation of the Commission for Reconciliation, Dialogue and Peace, convinced that it represents a moment of absolute national unity. The party banners, the adhesion to any particular ideology, must be put to one side, and absolutely all of us must concentrate on turning the National Assembly into a platform to reunite all. Venezuela demands a prompt solution to its very complex problems, which involves the lifting of the sanctions that are so damaging to millions of Venezuelans.
Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador said he will denounce the suspension of freedom of speech on national and social networks at the next G20 meeting.
Let me say that at the first meeting of the G20, I will make a statement on this issue. Of course, social networks should not be used to incite violence. but this cannot be the reason to suspend freedom of speech.
In Russia, the Gamaleya Center of Epidemiology and Microbiology is currently producing more than 3 million Sputnik V doses per month. The head of the Gamaleya Center detailed that their laboratories managed to produce 3.5 million vaccine doses per month. The scientific institute highlighted that the production level exceeds the 2.5 million vaccines marker and hoped to increase the production figures even more. In Russia, more than 1.5 million Sputnik vaccine doses have been administered during the vaccination campaign. So far, no adverse reactions have been registered. The French government will impose a daily nationwide curfew at 6 p.m. starting on Saturday to curb the spread of COVID-19.
Throughout metropolitan France, the curfew will apply from 6 p.m. on this Saturday and for at least 15 days. As you know, this provision already applies in 25 departments where we have observed in recent weeks a more dynamic progression than elsewhere in the number of sick patients that suffer COVID-19, with an incidence level higher than 200 per 100,000 inhabitants.
And also on Thursday, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan received the Sinovac COVID-19 vaccine in a bid to set an example and encourage others to do so. Speaking to reporters before leaving the hospital where he was given the shot, the president called on other political leaders and legislators to get inoculated and set an example to the population. Turkey rolled out its vaccination program against COVID-19 on Thursday, a day after regulatory authorities gave the green light for the Chinese-made vaccine's emergency use. Some 256,000 healthcare workers received the vaccine on the first day of the program. President Erdogan also said he expected a Turkish-developed vaccine to be available in May.
Unfortunately, there are those that are pursuing negative campaigns, but I believe that my nation has good sensibility and will never give these the opportunity. My nation, following the light of science and understanding, will give the best answer with this vaccine, especially in this period with the cursed coronavirus. We, as a state, will do everything that we can. We will mobilize all the means we have available to us. God willing, after these 3 million vaccines, 30 million more are on the way. We will complete this with 50 million that are coming from China. Thus, whatever we need, we will continue our struggle by meeting this need quickly. None of these steps are mandatory. All of this is based on volunteering.
Authorities in the United Kingdom have taken the urgent decision to ban arrivals into the country from several Latin American nations. Travelers from Argentina, Brazil, Bolivia, Chile, Colombia, Ecuador, French Guiana, Guyana, Panama, Paraguay, Peru, Suriname, Uruguay and Venezuela are no longer able to enter the country. Incoming flights from these countries will be suspended from Friday, as announced by British Transport Minister Grant Shapps, following evidence of a new COVID-19 variant detected in Brazil. In a Twitter thread, the official also said that travel from Portugal to the UK will be suspended, given its strong travel links with Brazil, as another measure to reduce the risk of importing infections. However, there is an exemption for hauliers traveling from Portugal to allow transport of essential goods. This measure does not apply to British and Irish nationals and third country nationals with resident rights. However, passengers returning from these destinations must self-isolate for 10 days along with the rest of the people that make up their households. With less than a week to go before Joe Biden takes office as the 46th President of the United States, the Capitol is now completely militarized zone in the face of new revelations regarding threats from far-right extremists. Some 15,000 National Guard troops have been deployed to Washington from different states across the country. They are carrying out numerous training activities in the Capitol grounds and facilities. After the January 6 attack on the Capitol, the FBI reported the intentions of extremist groups to unleash further violence. British media has reported that the Cello platform had been used by white supremacists to carry out the attack on the Capitol. The company has since assured that it eliminated 2,000 channels associated with those groups. Meanwhile, Meanwhile, the federal services monitor every detail as part of the extreme security operation. And the five-time Olympic swimming medalist Clyde Keller was charged with participating in the deadly riot at the U.S. Capitol after video emerged showing him among those storming the building last week. An FBI complaint was filed in a U.S. District Court, citing screenshots from the video and requesting an arrest warrant to charge Keller with knowingly entering a restricted building to impede an official government function, disorderly conduct, and obstructing law officers. The 38-year-old Olympian competed in the 2000, 2004, and 2008 Summer Olympics. In Uganda, polls have closed, giving way to the counting of votes, the most critical moment of the 2021 general elections. Authorities report that there have not been any major incidents during the day, aside from some delays in the distribution of electoral material and long lines at the polling stations. Ugandans voted in a tense election under heavy security and an internet blackout. Current President Yoweri Museveni seeks a sixth term in office against former pop star Kilawani Stentamu, also known as Bobi Wine. The opposition leader has already said he will not recognize the results of the elections. Some 18 million voters registered for the presidential and parliamentary vote. Museveni has been in office since 1986, when he helped to end years of tyranny under Idi Amin. As Ugandans cast their votes in the presidential and parliamentary elections, they say they hope for peaceful polls.
Uganda, here by elections, the electoral new president, which is today.
So could you tell me?
So, most of us feel good, especially old people like we. But there's some more young boys, girls, who have, they don't know what they're doing. They just follow whoever comes in, just give something little, they shout, make noise. So that's why we get tear gas because of these young children. They don't know what they're doing. Yeah.
And this expects a lot to change. Could you tell me a little?
And tension is rising on the Sudan-Ethiopia border following clashes between their militias that have killed civilians and caused material damage. The President of the Council of Sovereignty and Commander-General of the Armed Forces of Sudan, Al-Burhan, visited on Wednesday the Sudanese troops positioned in the state of Gadarif. He stated that his army is capable of defending the homeland and protecting its security, while expressing his condolences for the citizens recently killed by the Ethiopian militia. Addis Ababa authorities advocate a new demarcation agreement as a peaceful solution to the border disputes. Khartoum rejects this possibility after stating that the borders between the two countries are internationally established and accuses Ethiopia of evading its responsibilities. On Thursday, a fire raced through a sprawling Rohingya refugee camp in southern Bangladesh, destroying hundreds of homes. The UNHCR said more than 550 homes sheltering about 3,500 people, as well as 150 shops, were either totally or partially destroyed in fire. The fire broke out early Thursday in Nayapara camp in Cox's Bazar district, where more than 1 million Rohingya refugees from Myanmar are staying. Authorities so far have not reported serious injuries. The UN agency said affected families were being provided shelter materials, winter clothes, hot meals, and medical care. Also, refugees in Jordan began receiving vaccinations against COVID-19 on Thursday as part of the government initiative that includes all citizens, refugees and residents as part of a comprehensive national health program. The Jordanian Ministry of Health kicked off the vaccination campaign on Wednesday at 29 healthcare centers across the kingdom. Over 200,000 people have signed up to receive the shots. 53 refugees have already received the Sinopharm vaccine developed in China. The UN Refugee Agency has been supporting the government's efforts by encouraging and helping refugees to sign up for the vaccine and also providing transportation to health clinics where needed.
Refugees are identified for the vaccine in the same way citizens are. Everybody has to log into the platform register. And according to the system that has been put by the government, priority in phase 1 will be given to those who are elderly with chronic diseases, those who are identified as from the priority category. They will receive an SMS message on their mobile informing them about the date and time and the location of the health center where they are supposed to take the vaccination. The pandemic has affected refugees, if not in the same way it affected citizens, maybe harder, because as we all know, refugees are one of the most vulnerable communities in this world. A lot of refugees have lost their jobs during the lockdown, in the early stage of the pandemic. A lot of them are still struggling to find a new job after we would say gradual return of usual life.
South Korea's Supreme Court sentenced former President Park Geun-hye was to 20 years in prison due to a corruption case that removed her from office in 2017. Park was sentenced on charges of accepting illegal funds from 3 heads of the National Intelligence Service worth $3.19 million between May 2013 and September 2016. The Supreme Court upheld its previous ruling, including a $15 million fine and the decision to drop the extortion charges and some of the abuse of power charges against her. The former president will be released in 2039. And we have come to the end of this news brief, but remember, you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also, if you feel so inclined, please join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and Telegram. For Telesur English, I'm Gladys Quesada. Thank you for watching.